Good morning, everyone. All right, today we're going to be working on kick through, which is a transitionary movement from quadruped or from hands and feet. Great for looking at shoulder stability, especially shoulder stability moving into, grounded stability into side body stability on the shoulders. Go easy on this. I want to make sure that wrists, elbows, shoulders, and neck feel solid and stable, non-painful. So if you're feeling anything over a level 3 on any of these movements, especially related to hand up to the neck, I want you to back off a little bit, go into it slowly, and it'll be a great place for some feedback in the comment section. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start standing with our crocodile breath. Crocodile breath as a breath practice is something I want to practice in a lot of different positions. Normally we start this laying on our back. We do some in quadruped. We can do it in a chair. I also want to work on it on standing. And each level in which, or each position that we work on it, we are going to elicit different feedback on how well the crocodile breath is functioning in our body. So this is a great point of assessment, standing crocodile breath. We're going to make big C shapes with our hands. Thumbs are going to be placed in the back. I want to feel a little bit of that low back musculature. Index fingers are wrapping around the front so that we get a little bit of abdominal musculature, belly musculature. And then palms are pressing into the side body. I want to feel into this side body musculature. Hands are below the rib cage and above the hip bone in that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. And we're going to imagine that big abdominal wall like a balloon. On our inhale breath, I want to expand that balloon out and away, pushing into the hands, forward into the belly, back into the thumbs, out through the sides. We're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, and we're going to get about 5 to 6 nice big full breaths. As you feel that inhale up, on the exhale, drawing navel into spine, allow the hands to cinch down so that you create a little bit more resistance for your inhale. And with each inhale, see if you can expand that balloon a little bit bigger. And then the last part is kind of notice, where does that breath travel well? Does it move best into the belly? Does it move out to the sides? Can you feel it moving into the low back? And the biggest part is, do you feel it more to one side compared to the other? Do you get more expansion out through the right side or the left side, and the other side just doesn't move quite so well? We'll go ahead and let our hands drop down to the sides. We're now going to get into some standing cat-cows, but I want to continue with that same breath, filling up that crocodile breath on the inhale, exhale, drawing navel into spine. We're going to bring our hands down to the sides, spreading hands as wide as we can and facing the palms up towards the ceiling. As we face palms up, feel the shoulder blades draw down or pack down on your back, like they're reaching into your back pockets. From here, take a nice big breath in, feel that breath expand through the belly, but also lift up through the top of the chest, kind of like you're breathing into the clavicles. On the exhale, we're going to let our hands reach forward, and we're going to spiral thumbs down, allowing the shoulders to round over. We're getting a nice little rounding of the upper back. Inhale, hands come back down to the side as they spiral up towards the ceiling and reach down towards the floor at the same time. So I want to feel that nice opening of the chest. As we inhale, rounding of the upper back. As we exhale, and with each one, see if you can spiral the palms up towards the ceiling more and more, See if you can feel the shoulders pack down your back more. Feel the chest lift, sternum lift. Feel that spreading of the chest on that inhale. On the exhale, spiral the thumbs as far down towards the floor, reaching and extending forward. Get as rounded in the upper back as you possibly can. Now we're going to add in the pelvis. As you inhale, getting tall, pelvis is turning down towards the floor. We're going to get a little bit of sway in our low back. This should bring a little bit more air into our belly. On the exhale, draw the navel in and scoop so that we get a little bit more rounding, not just in the upper back, but all the way down into the lower back. And we'll shake the arms out, and now we're going to go ahead and grab our staff. We're going to get a shoulder width grip on the staff, and this is where I want to imagine that we're trying to bend or break the staff in two, and I want that bend and break to come from the elbows or the wrist. The elbows should spiral up towards the ceiling, and the shoulder blades, feel those shoulders pack down and back. We're going to come right back into our breath with pelvic tilts. Breathing into the belly, allowing that belly to move forward, pelvis tilts to the floor so we get some sway in our back. Exhale, drawing navel into our spine as we scoop our pelvis. Scoop enough that you start to feel some engagement of your glutes, and see if you can also feel some engagement of your core, abdominal core in the front. On the inhale, letting the pelvis tilt down towards the floor, belly opens up, big sway in the back. On the next inhale, as you exhale, just scoop, drawing navel in. We're going to bring our elbows up and see how far can we bring the elbows to our ears or beyond. Inhale. Filling up the belly, sway in the back, arms move forward lightly. Exhale, squeeze elbows back. I want to make sure we're continuing to get this scoop of the pelvis, core engaged, feeling a little bit of that glute engagement at the same time that we're seeing how far can we bring the elbows back towards our ears without pain. And we're going to do 10 to 20 reps on this. So you should feel a little bit of fatigue, maybe a little bit of muscular burn in the shoulders by the time you get to 10 or 20 reps. Again, making sure that we're not moving into pain. I'm still bending the staff, so I have a really good grip. Elbows are spiraled up, shoulders are active and engaged as I pull the elbows back. Nice scoop of the pelvis. Feel the core kind of engage as you draw those elbows back. And let our arms drop down. Just going to move the staff to behind our back. Palms are still facing backwards. Our palms are facing backwards. We're still bending the staff. We're bending it away from the body, like we're trying to bend it or break it backwards. That's going to spiral the elbow pits forward. And I want to feel those shoulder blades, again, reaching downward like we're trying to move them into our back hip pockets. That should help feel that chest open up. I want to make sure that the shoulders are not rounded forward, they're rounded back, packed down. From here, again, nice inhale into our belly. On the exhale, lifting the elbows up towards the ceiling, squeezing into it. Inhale as we let the elbows drop. I'm not as worried about the pelvic movement at this point. We can even get a little bend in the hips if that feels a little bit more comfortable. The more that we bend should help get a little more elevation in the elbows. One last little thing on this one. As you're lifting, continue to try to actively break the staff. Feel that spiral through the elbows as you lift. That should continue to draw the shoulders down and back, which will get a little bit more lift and stretch through the front of the chest. See if you can feel that. We're doing 10 to 20 reps on this one as well. So there will be some fatigue or potential burn in the shoulders by the end. Once we get 10 to 20 reps, we're going to flip our palms over so they're now facing forward. We're continuing to bend the staff away from the body. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Nice inhale, fill up the belly. Exhale, draw navel into spine as you lift the elbows up towards the ceiling. Inhale, drop. Exhale, squeeze a little further. And we're continuing to spiral through the elbows to bend that staff as we lift and feel that opening up of the chest. Sternum, nice big stretch through the chest. Not massive, not painful, just feeling a nice opening up as we lift those elbows. Once you get 10 to 20 reps, we're going to go ahead and set the staff down to the side, and we're going to come all the way down to the floor, and we're going to get into our shin box position. With shin box, we're just going to start. We'll go ahead and I'm on my left side shin box. I'm going to bring the left hand down. I want to go ahead and spiral that elbow out and away. Feel that shoulder blade pack down and back in the same way that we just have been working on it with the staff. Feel that chest lift and open up. And I just want you to get a little bit of an assessment for how does your shin box feel on this side. Notice where it feels tight, tense, maybe it feels a little stiff. And we're going to go to the other side doing our windshield wiper across. So we're going to lift both knees as we do. We're going to shift our other hand down to the floor and then shift to the other side. As we shift, spiral that elbow out, feel that shoulder pack, and assess this side of the shin box. Notice, is this side tighter or is it a less tight than the other side? Does it feel easier or more challenged to sit in? This is my more challenged side. Generally, most of the time, if I put somebody into a position on one side compared to the other and I allow their bodies to figure it out, the side that they choose will be the easier side. And when I move them to the opposite side will be the tighter side. So I'm kind of assuming that's going to be true for most people in the class. So we're going to start on our tighter side. So elbows spiraled, shoulders packed. We're going to come to our breath, focusing on the back hip. Inhale, filling into that crocodile breath, and let that back hip reach down towards the floor. If it touches the floor, great. If not, great. Not a big deal either way. But I want to get an idea for how close to the floor you can get. And then we're going to lift that hip off the floor and reach it as far forward as we can, getting as much extension through the front of the hip here. Feel that light stretch. Inhale, we're letting that hip drop all the way down to the floor. exhale, we're scooping as we reach forward. See how much range of motion you have from the floor as your hip rolls up and scoops forward. Can you feel that stretch through the front of the hip? Are you able to feel some contraction in the glute, in the rear, as you get into this position? If you've got a lot of bend here, you're not able to go very far, you're not going to feel that glute. We got to get full hip extension in order to get full glute contraction. So this is a really important assessment of what is hip mobility like, especially at the front of the hip. Now we're going to go ahead and shift, doing our windshield wiper across. So again, move to the other hand, nice grounded palm as we windshield wiper slowly across. Spiral that elbow out and away, pack shoulder. Doing the same thing. Inhale, allow that hip to drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop as you reach it as far forward as you can, feeling for that stretch through the front of the hip. Inhale, reach to the floor. Exhale. Can you feel that stretch in the front? Can you start to feel that contraction in the glute? How much range of motion do you have on this side compared to the other side? Since we started on the more restricted or challenged side, well, it depends on what part of your hips and your back felt challenged by this. For me, I have a lot more mobility on my right hip when I'm on this side. My opposite side, I have a fair amount less mobility. Although I definitely got some tightness through this right hip today. That is a little bit newer than usual. We're going to go ahead and transition back across with our windshield wipers. We're going to do the exact same movement for 3 breaths. Nice inhale, let that hip drop. Exhale as we scoop into it. Generally, the second time coming into a movement should be more mobile. This is a little bit more mobile, although it's still pretty tight as I reach forward with my hip. On the third one, as we exhale and scoop, we're going to add in our reach with rotation. Imagining we got a piece of bread and we got a buddy over here right through our knee. We're just going to let that hand reach through the arrow of the knee. Inhale, we're letting it all the way back. Let that hip drop. Exhale, scoop first. Feel the stretch in the front of the hip. Add to that stretch by reaching and rotating. I don't want my reach and rotation to take away the hip. And generally, it will take away the hip if I reach and fold with my shoulders. So I want to keep my shoulders at the same level, and I'm just spiraling around that grounded palm, seeing how far can I get my fingers to extend. How far can I get from this back knee to my fingertips with that nice stretch through the front of the hip. We'll go ahead and transition back across to the other side. We're going to start with our 3 breaths. In, letting that back hip drop. Exhale, scooping it forward. Again, should be a little bit more mobile the second time going through it. And this feels a lot better on the front of this right hip. And on the third one, nice inhale. As we exhale, scoop, feel the stretch first, and then add to the stretch. That adding to the stretch as we get into that rotation, we should still feel it in the front of the hip, and it may get drawn up into the obliques, maybe at across the body or into the low back as we get that nice reach and rotation. Notice how much different does it feel on this side, especially that rotation. Did you have more rotation? Do you have more rotation on this side, or was it on the previous side? We're going to go ahead and transition back across. And now we're going to work hip mobility on the back hip. So again, Grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Now we're looking, lifting this back knee and just seeing how high can we pick that knee up towards the ceiling as we exhale. Inhale, we're letting it back to the floor. And with each one, we're trying to squeeze into that reach a little bit higher. But I want to make sure we stay grounded through this shoulder. I don't want to shift my shoulders or move a whole lot through the rest of my body. All I'm doing is focusing on that lift through that back hip. Notice how high can you lift? How big of a stretch and where do you feel it? More than likely, it's going to be right here through the front of the hip that we're moving. We're going to go ahead and transition across to the other side. Nice slow windshield wiper. And we're going to do the same thing. Grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Nice lift and opening of that back hip or back knee towards the ceiling. Inhale as we let it down. Exhale, drawing that navel up as we squeeze the knee up towards the ceiling. Again, try to stay grounded through the rest of the body. I don't want a lot of shifting around through the shoulders or the opposite hip. We're only focusing on moving from this knee, seeing how high can we lift. Notice the difference of how high your right knee moved compared to your left knee. Both of mine are about as even as they ever are, which I'm pleased with, which is not usual for me. So we're going to shift back across to the other side. And now we're going to get into our folds. Nice. We'll go ahead and I think I want to use the knee as the arrow today. So I like to shift up my assessment. Sometimes I want to go through the shin going forward. Sometimes I like going through the knee. Going through the knee, I want to place both hands equally around the knee so the knee is perfectly between both my hands. Then I want to square our chest to the floor. So feel even weight through both hands and both shoulders. From here, we're dropping the chest, the sternum through that knee, and we're going to reach both hands evenly through that knee. I'm trying to stay as square through our shoulders and the floor as we exhale. Inhale, we're coming all the way back up. Exhale, dropping the chest and seeing if we can reach a little bit further. As we reach, I want to keep those hands perfectly even because again, I'm trying to keep the shoulders even. And if one hand reaches a little further, it means that shoulder's reaching a little further. And that may be an indication of some back tension that we aren't noticing. And I want to keep those hands even because that's going to bring that awareness into that tension, that space a little bit better. Once we've done 5 on that side, we're going to shift across and do the same thing on the other side. So again, hands go either side of the knee. Square the chest up so that you feel even weight through both hands and even weight loaded through both shoulders. Nice inhale. As we exhale, drop the sternum through that knee. Keep it even and then reach both hands evenly out as we exhale. Inhale, bringing it all the way back up. Exhale with each one, seeing if we can reach a little bit further. Notice how does it feel on the left side compared to the right side. Again, these are big assessment points. So notice, does one glute feel tighter than the other side? Do you feel it tightness on the back hip, maybe the front of the back hip as you reach? That's more on one side compared to the other. How does it feel in the low back? And now we're going to start going side to side with it. So I want to do a fold on one side to the other. And we're going to go ahead and use our windshield wiper as a slow transition across. Nice exhale as we fold. Inhale back up. Take a full breath in and out as you transition through the windshield wiper, and then a nice fold to the opposite side. At this point, I'm no longer going to use the knee as the arrow. I'm kind of just exploring. I want to kind of reach. We can reach forward. We can reach through the knee. We can even reach behind the knee. We can go against the grain. So we have a bunch of little areas, directions that we can go and explore in our folds in order to notice any kind of particular tension patterns that might be different on the left side compared to the right side. And we're going to do 10 up to 20 reps back and forth on this. Once we get to about 5, even up to 10 reps, is where we're going to start to open up our shin box. Opening up the shin box will simply be sliding that back leg to open up the space of our hips as we get into our fold. And I want to do that to the same degree on each side. Start with a small opening. And notice, does that feel tighter in one hip compared to the other? And then with each one, we're going to slowly open that hip up a little bit more. So just to give a little feedback on one of the things that we can pay attention to here. My left side shin box, when I'm on this side, this is my easier side for the shin box. As I open up this back hip, it feels pretty good. This feels easy. I get a nice stretch in my left glute. When I go to the other side, this is my more challenged side. As I open up this back hip, I have more tension through the front compartment of this my left hip. And I feel all the way into the fold. I get some stretch in that glute, but it's a little harder to get into because of this mobility issue in the left hip. So those are the kinds of things that I want to pay attention to on each side of the shin box. What feels similar side to side, and more importantly, what feels dissimilar. The best things to notice are tension, restriction patterns that you feel on one side more and are not as prevalent on the opposite side. As we're getting finishing these up, we're continuing to open that back leg up. If you have good hip mobility, we can start working in towards a yoga class pigeon pose. If your mobility feels limited, then just go as far as you can comfortably, non-painfully, and without forcing it. I do not want to force range of motion through this. This should feel good, pleasant, juicy, not forceful, not stressful, not painful. And really by now, the hips should feel really nice and mobile. All right, we're going to come back to our starting point in our shin box. Again, we are on the tighter side. We're going to work some roll downs through our shoulders. So this is a little bit of a stability drill. I'm going to turn sideways to see if I can show this better. So we're working our inhale. We're nice and tall. Exhale. We're going to, let's just start with a little bit of spirals through the palm. So I got a nice spread, grounded hand. I'm going to spiral the palm up towards the ceiling. Now, as I'm grounded, the only way I can spiral my palm up is if my elbow starts to bend. So as the palm spirals up, elbow bends, we're going to allow the elbow to find the floor. We're going to continue to spiral that palm up as we then pull the elbow into the side of our body, and then allowing the shoulder to touch the floor. From here, we're going to spiral the palm, start spiraling the palm down to the floor as we press through the elbow. As we get up to elbow, palm should be just about flat, and then we're going to flatten it out as we push and extend back up into our shin box position. So again, spiral the palm up, bends the elbow, let the elbow find the floor. We're continuing to spiral up as we pull the elbow into our side body. That elbow is going to come into the side of the rib cage. It should not be in the front. So spiraling up, elbow finds the floor, pull that elbow in, see if you can touch the outside edge of the shoulder to the floor, and then spiraling the palm down as we push to the elbow, and then push to the palm. And see if you can do 5 up to 10. Nice, smooth exhale as you press. Inhale as we bring ourselves to the floor. Exhale as you press.
Hey, Jesse.
Yes.
Hey, the shin box is a little too much for me to go into that. It's not the shoulder, elbow, wrist thing. It's more of being in the shin box. Is there like a modification you can do?
What do you feel? What do you feel in the shin box on it?
I don't feel confident that my back can bend that way.
Okay. Um, it's a good question. Without seeing you, I'm kind of curious so when you watch me on this,
Yeah.
as I'm coming in, is it the side bend? Do you feel the side bend of your back? Or do you feel like you're
Yeah,
kind of rotating?
it's more on the left side. It's because I'm also with the right hip in front, left hip back.
Left hip. So you're on the same side I was,
You're
right?
right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more of like that lower left area that I feel like I'm
So you
like,
feel it over on this side.
yeah, like it's too tense to like
Interesting.
bend in that
Okay.
direction.
Well, let's
But I
do
bring
this then. Okay. Let's go to the other side.
okay.
Were you able to go down a little bit of the way?
I mean, I was able to like bring my thumb up and kind of go down, but I wasn't able to like go to the floor
Are you able to
really.
get to elbow to the floor?
Let me try. But still in shin box position.
Yeah, still in shin box. I don't think it's the shin box. I don't think it's the position of the hips that's the issue.
Okay, so like, can my hand come out a little bit further from my body?
Yes.
Is it okay? Um, I, I don't know. I'm just a little cautious with it.
You're feeling some tension there, so there's a reason you're feeling cautious, right?
Reason why I'm sorry. Say again.
You feel when you move, you feel tension on the opposite side here, so that's why you feel caught. Like
Yeah,
you have a sensation. You're not just feeling cautious for no reason. You actually experiencing a sensation that's like, oh, that feels
I would say
tight.
it's like a one. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not above a three at all. It's just like a one, but it's like that spot, like sacrum, lower back area is
Okay.
like
So it's
where I'm
more
like,
low back. Okay. So when you switch to the other side, do you feel the same thing or is it not there?
let me try. I haven't tried it just yet.
This is a great assessment point right here. So it's the reason I'm kind of sticking to it because I want to get a little bit more.
Can go a little bit further, but I feel like the stretch is more in my front right hip as we're like on my right hip, left hip back. Yeah, left hip back. Um, I'm just, I don't, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's movement I haven't done in a while, so I'm like, ooh, be
So
careful.
we're gonna switch to something different. I'm gonna see if we can get that area to loosen up. We're not
Okay.
gonna well I'm gonna we're not gonna get into this. We're not gonna get into that fully,
Okay.
but we're gonna use it as an assessment just to kind of see if we can get some improvement in how that back feels. So let's
Okay.
start on whichever side felt the most uncomfortable, which I think was your right side shin box, left hip in the back.
Yep.
And so we're going to bring the right hand up off the floor. Um, and so this is the one where we are reaching the elbow up to the ceiling as we exhale. We're also reaching down through that same hip as we exhale. Inhale, we're letting it soften, kind of breathing out into that side body, and then exhale, lift and reach. And do you feel any stretch in the side body on that right side on this?
Yeah, I do feel the stretch, but it's the left side that, are we working on the right side first, then going to the
Yeah, we're
left
gonna
side?
do both
Sorry.
sides. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, no, you're pretty, so I just, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see if we can get this area mobilized, and if doing that and then coming back to that movement makes it feel different. So I want to add one more little component to what we're doing. Back
Okay.
hip. As you inhale, letting the elbow soften, let the back hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop the back hip as you reach. So we should get that, should elicit a little bit of stretch into that back front of the back hip, as well as that side body at the same time. And it might be a little challenging to coordinate because there's a lot of different things that we're paying attention to. But once you get about 5 reps of that, we'll switch to the other side.
Honestly, I haven't done this position in a while, so I'm gonna focus on it this week.
Okay.
Be honest.
Well, let's come to the other side. This might be a really valuable moment, because if what we're doing right now, when we come back to that previous movement, if it feels better, then that tells us that this is a movement that you definitely want to start incorporating more.
Okay.
Because there's something going on hips into that low, what's going on in that low back is your hips and your back not communicating very well. The hips don't want to let go of that low back, and that's making that low back feel precarious. And if we can get some separation, was that?
I said my hips always want to be in control.
There you go. So nice inhale, side body, exhale, reach as you lift. We'll start with just this first part before we add in that back hip. So I want to get
So
that
I'm more
nice.
coordinated on this side than the other side.
What's that? Say that again.
I'm more coordinated.
You're more coordinated on this side than the other side.
Yeah, I feel like I can connect all those components together, as we're on the other side. It took a lot of mental strength to, like, you know, do the breathing, hip extension, reaching with the elbow. It, was, I don't feel as coordinated as I feel on this side.
Good. That's great info. So once you've got about 5 of these, let's switch back to the other side. And just very lightly, we're not doing this, you don't have to go all the way down. The main thing I just want to get a feel for is getting into if it feels different, right? Do you feel safer getting down into it, even if you don't go all the way? Has that opened up a little bit of mobility in that back to where it's like, oh yeah, I can do this a little bit more?
Yeah. My elbow's not all the way down, but I'm definitely further than I was.
Okay, good. And that's great. We're going to go ahead and move forward from that, move on. But
Okay.
this right here, that's now I would say that's something you want to do every day.
Okay.
I would do it after doing some other hip mobility first, hip and shoulder mobility, before you don't do that one when you're cold.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But after
More
some light
warmed
shoulder
up.
mobility, light hip mobility, you can't get enough of this, is how I would look at
Okay.
it. And both, you got to do both sides. You can't just focus on the one side. You got to go back and forth fairly evenly on both sides.
Okay. Yeah, definitely will incorporate this more. Thanks. I'm sorry for interrupting. I just wanted
No, no,
to.
that was good. I'm glad you did.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and we're gonna do one on our back. We're gonna lay all the way back down on our back. Arms are gonna go out to the side with the palms up. This is where I want to imagine that our upper body, we're laying in a bed of sand, and I want to make a nice imprint of our upper back in the sand. Upper back, elbows out to wrists. We're going to lift our knees, our feet and our knees up. Knees are going to be around 90 degrees, but I want the hips to be less than 90 degrees. So pull the knees in so that you feel your low back is nice and flat to the floor. The further forward the knees go, it's going to lift the spine. So I want to have them kind of tucked towards the chest a little bit. From here, we're going to start to slowly let the hips rotate one side to the other. Let one hip lift as it rolls over the other. Inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we lift and roll to the opposite side. And again, we got our nice active arms pressing down into the sand, making a nice print. I don't want to smear the sand. So we're only going as far with our hips as we can maintain perfect control with our upper body. I don't want to feel the shoulders sliding around, arms sliding around. I want to feel them grounded and not moving. And with each one, as we exhale, we're going to see if we can rotate a little further without going into pain or stress. This one's a great one to notice. How does it feel going to the left compared to going to the right? Is one side tighter, stiffer, more resistant? We'll go ahead and let our legs, feet come back down to the floor. And we're going to move into our inverted position. Hands are coming down, grounded at our hips or slightly behind the hips. Fingers can be forward, out to the side, or back, whichever's comfortable. I tend to find my fingers out to the side is where I like to be. And we're going to do some elbow spirals. We're going to get into some inverted cat-cows. Starting out by just spiraling the elbows, turning the elbows inward so that they're facing as far forward or really like we're trying to spin them into our body, and then spiraling the elbows out and away. And as we spiral them out and away, we should notice shoulder blades roll back. Chest is able to open up and feel and kind of push down through the palms so that you feel some lift through the sternum. Then as we spiral in, shoulders are going to round up towards the ears. Feel that rounding in the upper back. See if you can feel some stretch in between the shoulder blades or in that mid-back area. Inhale as you spiral out and get tall. And really focus that inhale breath to lift up into the upper chest. Exhale, draw the navel into the spine. Start to allow your pelvis to scoop as your shoulders are rounding forward. Scoop pelvis means that we should get that stretch between the shoulders, mid-back, also maybe down into the low back. Inhale as we allow ourselves to get nice and tall. Really start to root down, ground, pressing into the floor to lift the sternum up as tall as you can as you're spiraling those elbows out and away. Notice how much your shoulder blades, the muscles around your shoulder blades, are starting to work and get active. I want to feel that we are working on two very important things here. One is thoracic extension. This is something that just about everybody struggles with. The second is shoulder stability, of being able to get that shoulder to pack down and back actively and to be engaged, that downward engagement of the shoulders. These two things are paired together. If you lack thoracic mobility, you're going to lack the ability to pack the shoulders. So these are important to work on in order to pair them together. And they're important as far as taking us into the ability to lift and crawl from this position. On the next one, as we exhale and we get nice and tall, now I want to remain tall. This is where we're going to start to lift the hips up off the floor. But I want to make sure that we have good thoracic extension and good packed shoulder blades, which means the chest will be opened up. The shoulders will be down and back. If, as you lift your hips up, your shoulders start to round forward, that means that you are not maintaining thoracic extension and you're not maintaining a packed shoulder, and that means you don't have the stability for the lift. So the progression you need to work on is hips stay on the floor, continue to work these activations, getting stronger, pressing. Once we can start to lift the hips up, maintaining that hip position, that shoulder position, then we can start to play. So we're going to, for those who have good ability to keep the shoulders packed, we're going to exhale as we lift the hips up towards the ceiling. We're going to inhale and let them come all the way back to touch the floor, and allow a little bit of rounding forward of the shoulders. Exhale, spiraling down, getting those shoulders packed, lifting the hips. And with each one, we're going to see if we can lift the hips a little bit higher. And again, I only want to go as high with our hips as we can maintain shoulders spiraled out, packed, and engaged. We're starting to let those shoulders round as we're at the top. That means you're going too far. And I want to make it, the reason I want to work on not going too far is we have to build this movement up through neurology. And if you're going too far where you're no longer holding your shoulder position, you are working the wrong neurology. That neurology is not going to make your shoulders stronger in the way that we're trying to get them stronger. We'll go ahead and let the hips back down to the floor. And now we're going to shift over into quadruped position, getting onto hands and knees. Now, I want to make sure that wrists feel strong, shoulders feel strong here. Spread hands, grounded palms, toes are tucked. And we're going to lift the knees up off the floor. And I want to see, can we maintain nice grounded shoulders, knees off the floor, engaged core. Then we can let our knees back down to the floor. If you're able to get the knees off the floor without any pain in the wrist.
Oh, sorry. With the elbow spirals, is it inward, outward, or more of a neutral position?
Elbow should be largely spiraled forward so that you feel the shoulder blades packed down.
Got it. Okay.
So from next, as we lift the knees up, we're going to start playing with rotation of the hips, letting the knees kind of rotate side to side, similar to what we did when we were laying on our back. But I want to stay grounded through the palms. So again, elbows are spiraled forward, shoulder blades are packed onto the ribs, moving towards the hip pockets, knees lift up. From here, we're going to let both knees float towards the left side, and then both knees float towards the right side. We're kind of pivoting through our toes, through both feet. Notice how that creates some shift of weight from one hand, one shoulder, to the other shoulder. We're going nice and slow with our breath. Once you go side to side 5 times, we can allow the knees back down to the floor, give the shoulders, the hands and wrists and the shoulders a little bit of a break. And then we're going to get into the next part of this, which is going to be adding in the kick through. So if at any part of this, shoulders, wrist get pain, shoulder, wrist, elbow, shoulder, neck, we have pain, then that's too far. You need to back off and work on the progression just below it. Again, the more we work on those earlier progressions, should be able to start to move through those pain patterns and get to the higher progressions. So coming back to it, spread hands, spiraled elbows, pack shoulders, lifting the knees. Now as we spiral, I'm spiraling to my left. I'm reaching my right foot through. Inhale as I bring that foot back, spiraling to the left side and seeing if I can reach my right leg through. For right now, I'm keeping both hands grounded to the floor. After 5 of those side to side, we can bring knees down, and we're going to go into one more progression. Again, this progression I want to be cautious of, because as we get into it, we're going to lift one hand up, and we're going to be on one shoulder predominantly. So I want to make sure we have good stability in that shoulder. We're not dealing with pain. So coming back into our grounded hands, spiraled elbows, packed shoulders, lifting the knees. As we spiral and reach that leg, we're going to let the opposite hand come off the floor. We can kind of start to lift and reach that shoulder up towards the ceiling. Inhale, hand comes back down to the floor as we slowly shift to the other side. Now, as I'm releasing my hand, I don't want to lose my shoulder. I don't want this shoulder to drop. I want to kind of be actively pushing away through the arm, keeping space in this shoulder. And that might be a really challenging thing to do if this is new. Again, wherever you're able to maintain, whatever level you're able to do perfectly is the progression level that you need to focus on. Where you're finding it a struggle, you want to keep that part limited. And if you're finding there's pain on these, it's a great opportunity to schedule a session with me. We're going to come all the way back up to our feet. And we're going to get back into our crocodile breath. So making a nice big C shape with our hands. Thumbs in the rear, index fingers in the front. And we're going to get 5 to 6 nice big full breaths. Before we get started on the breath, notice your feet. Make sure, I want to get a little bit of rock to heels, rock to the ball of the feet, and find nice dead center, and make sure you got even weight on both feet. I don't want to be shifted over to one side. So feel your weight dead center through the center of your arches, even weight through the front of the foot and the back of the foot, and even weight left or right. And then from here, nice big crocodile breaths. As we inhale, how big can you expand that balloon? As you exhale, drawing navel into spine, but also notice shoulders. If there's tension in the shoulders, allow the shoulders to soften and drop. I don't want to hold them stiff. Inhale, feel that expansion through the abdominal wall. Exhale, navel to spine, shoulders soften. And notice, does this breath feel different than it did at the beginning of the session? Hopefully, you feel like you got a little bit better access to breath. Like you got a little bit more volume, you can fill it in, and it feels a little bit more balanced left to right.